Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to On the Bright Line podcast, tales from recovering food addicts from the perspective of a physician, a therapist, and an off-the-wall storyteller. We are not affiliated or endorsed by Brightline Eating, and all content presented in this podcast represents our personal opinions and does not represent medical, nutritional, or psychological professional advice. Hello and welcome to the next episode. We are going to talk about scale chatter today, chitter chatter. We talk about food chatter a lot in the BLE program, and that is the thoughts in your head around food, and they can be very consuming at times. Scale chatter is kind of a newer concept. I think it's something that was vlogged about by Susan, and that it's kind of come up more in the community. Just talking about really the consuming unhealthy thoughts around the body scale. So not talking about the food scale, not talking about weighing or measuring your food, but the body scale and what that means. Robin, do you want to talk about unhealthy relationship with the scale?
Whoa, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Stupid scale.
I threw her a fast pitch. Sorry.
Stupid scale. Right. So that idea of that that what we're saying to ourselves in our head every time we step on the scale has such power for us, whether that's my worth is tied to what that number on the scale is doing. And if I'm doing, quote unquote, right or good, then the number goes down. And if I'm doing, quote unquote, bad, wrong, then it goes up. And so tying our worth to what that number is doing, as opposed to taking what we call a non-judgmental stance of the scale is going to do what the scale is going to do on any given day.
Right. And I think the question is, for a lot of people, is what's healthy? What's a healthy amount to weigh yourself when you're, I think that when you're talking about, obviously trying to reduce weight for health, as, the position that I'm in, what is the healthy amount to be weighing yourself and to be using the body scale as a measure, a scientific measure?
Right. Well, first, let me say that 1 pound of fat, scientifically speaking, is 3,500 calories.
Right.
Wow.
That's way more, than you're going to cut out in a day.
Right.
It's literally, you only need 1,800 calories or so a day. So you can't cut out 3,000. You could eat nothing and you're still only in a 1,800 calorie a day deficit from your basal metabolic need from a scientific perspective. So when you get on the scale today and you weigh a number, and then tomorrow that number is down 1 pound, you didn't lose 3,500 calories overnight. That's a
What?
I know. But, we are made of mostly water. And so we have
Right.
huge shifts in water depending on our salt intake, our hydration, our activity level. And we can shift up to 3 pounds of water very easily in one day, just from getting dehydrated or drinking more water or whatever. And so if you get on the scale every single day and you're really trying to track your weight loss or your weight gain, the most you're going to get is a 1/7 of a pound increment in reality. And every other part of the weight change is from fluid. And so you can weigh every day, and we'll get into this of, what kind of reasons you should weigh on what intervals or could. We're not experts, of course, just from our opinion.
What we have done.
What we've found. But in reality, you got to take that daily weight with that grain of salt.
Right.
And, for somebody that has a significant amount of trauma around that number. I can remember as a physician, people coming in and I just needed to get the weight. And the reason doctors need to get your weight, by the way, is it affects the medication doses that they give you, right?
Yeah.
That's the reason.
I'm rubbing my head because I remember this was just such,
So-
it was so hard.
it's hard.
In the clinic. People would come in and they've been so traumatized by, medical staff in the past that they're like, I don't even want to get on the scale. And anyway.
It comes with judgment of self, judgment from others.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of emotional energy gets centered around the number that comes up on that scale. And so I think if you're going to use the scale as a scientific instrument, which I think in conclusion of our talk today, I would recommend that you do.
Right.
You have to take it as the scientific instrument it is. If you're going to
Yeah.
weigh every day, then you're basically getting what's called the hysteresis. You're getting what is the high and the low of my range. You're really never one weight. There's no one number that defines you. Most people are going to be in a 5 to 7 pound range for fluid shifts. And right, so what you'll want to see is, let's say you've decided that your goal weight is 140 pounds. Well then, what you'd really like to see is you'd like to be ranging from maybe 135 to 145. That those are the least and the most if you were to track it every day of your weight. And that means your average weight, is 140, right? And if you start noticing that it's starting to go 138, 147, 139, 149, okay, well, the average of those, now I'm getting up to 142 as my average weight. Now I think maybe there's a problem, right? But it's really about tracking data points every day over a long period of time and kind of taking the average and not getting really hung up about that number.
Right.
When I first started doing BLE, I had a lot of unhealthy experience with that number. First of all, when you start any diet, you set a goal. Right. And I've noticed that in BLE, they're very cagey about not telling you what your goal should be. And there's a reason for that. Because
and even more so, when it said that it needs to be a range. It needs to not be a single number.
Yeah.
You need to be not shooting for a single number. You need to be shooting for a range. And it's generally about a 10-pound range.
Yeah. And I looked at, as a physician, I've always gone by the BMI, the body mass index. And a normal body mass index is 18.5 to 25. That's a huge range of pounds, guys. So I kind of picked a number in the middle, and that's where I ended up.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it going up or down either way. But initially, because I had such an unhealthy relationship with needing that number, as Robin said, to make me feel good, that I was doing good, that I was winning, that number was a certain number, and if it was higher than that number, it ruined my whole day.
Right.
And so I stopped weighing for a while because I started becoming very obsessed with that number. But I later found as I hit maintenance that I was avoiding weighing because I didn't want to know if that hysteresis, if that average was bumping up, because I was starting to make some ads and I really had some attachment to those ads and was afraid if the number went up, I was going to have to take them back away.
Right.
And so I had to kind of get honest with myself and say, scientifically, I just need to start weighing every day. And if you start approaching it that way, I can weigh every day now and I just keep track of that number. And because I'm weighing so often and I know kind of what my ranges are, those numbers going up or down don't scare me.
Right.
But if I do see a trend, then I have to stop and go, well, what have I kind of been adding, or what have I been doing? Have I been getting a little sloppy with my weighing? Have I been, getting that creep, weight creep because I'm being a little less careful when I'm traveling or eating out, that kind of thing. And so,
Yeah, I am everyday wear. And when I'm on program, I'm always an everyday wear. It's only when I'm not. When I'm off program, I'm like, I don't want to know the number.
Yep.
Don't even look at the scale. The scale doesn't exist in my world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely an everyday wear, and I really like. There's many apps in the world, but I like my Fitbit app because as an everyday wear, and I actually have a scale that syncs to my phone, which is super nice because it just puts the number in the app. I don't have to type anything out or anything like that. But the nice thing is it also gives you weekly averages, and there's a graph. And so something I have been a very fast loser on BLE. So my weight has come down super significantly quickly, which is not necessarily usual, but when coming from bigger numbers, there's a swiftness to it, right? So I think my struggle and the scale chatter for me is as I'm getting closer and closer to goal weight, that I think the numbers have slowed, and I haven't been coming down as fast, and it's not looking for that dopamine hit again, looking at that week over week average, seeing that I'm still losing weight. There hasn't been a stall or a stop. I think the one really interesting thing about the program is I hear the coaches say this all the time, that a stall is 4 weeks of no loss. So it's not like 1 week, 1 day, 2 days,
Yeah,
3
it's a
days. It's
long-term
at
process.
4 weeks, a month of no loss is what they consider a weight stall.
Right.
And until you get to that point, you're just in normal weight loss. And, a half a pound a week is very normal weight loss. And they talk about slow, medium, and fast, weight loss in the program and what that looks like. And that's really around maintenance and how to manage maintenance when you're going into maintenance, and less about, like how swiftly you're getting to the goal. But I think the bigger thing to talk about is that weight loss ultimately, or that, that end number really is, it is what it is, and I'll get there when I get there, right? And like coming to terms with that and having the mental clarity around the fact that like I've lost almost 100 pounds and I still have 60 more to go ish. I don't, again, I'm looking at a range. I'm not looking at a single number, but that it could take me another year. It could take me 2 more years. Like it could take me, I don't know. I have no idea how long it's going to take me to lose the rest of this weight. But the reality is it doesn't matter, because this is the way I'm eating for the rest of my life. And when I land in the, or when I land the plane is the way that, we talk about it in BLE, is when you land the plane, that's when the plane lands. It doesn't need to land before that. And nothing's going to change. This is still going to be where I'm at. Like I'm still going to be eating this way. And, maintenance, there may be some ads, there may not be some ads, whatever that looks like. But I think that that's where I want to continue to work in my mind, is like, yes, getting away from the dopamine hit of seeing the number drop on the scale, because it is very addicting.
Oh yeah, it's exciting, right? When you struggle with weight and this is finally working,
Right, absolutely.
and you want to see that number come down so that you can feel happy today.
Yes,
that
and
all this work is is paying off. Right?
And my concern is, and that's not a real concern because I have some time before I get there, but like in maintenance, it's like when it's just maintenance, like how do you continue with the excitement is probably a bad word, but just like how do you keep up the mindset of like, okay, I'm still working the program, like I'm still working the program, and I need to keep on program, and I don't stray from that just because there's not this huge huge amount of weight that I need to lose or anything like that. And that is definitely a shift that I think it's smart to start working on early in your program, and is to not wait until you get to maintenance. Because I mean, backing up a little bit more, this is the first time I've ever been in a program where we've talked about what we do after we've lost all the weight.
Yeah. Right.
And it's like, before it's like, just lose the weight.
And then you're done.
And then you're done. Right. And then it's like, well, as we all know, then you just gain it right back. That's what you do. Right. Because you don't have a plan for moving forward. There's no strategy. So like, now it's like I'm in a program that it's like this is the strategy, the plan moving forward after all the weight's gone.
Yeah.
But also like, how do I mentally prepare myself for that now, so that when that time comes, I'm not struggling through not having the excitement of all the weight
I think
loss.
when I first got on the program, for the first 3 months, I think I lost a pound a week. Right? And I've lost a total of 70 pounds. The rest of that weight was a half a pound every 2 weeks, roughly.
Yeah.
And so the dopamine hit went away pretty quickly. And I was kind of anxious sometimes about, is this even working? But then kept, and I stopped weighing myself every day because the not seeing or seeing it go up was stressing me out at that point. And I realized I'm in this for the long haul, keep doing your plan and let's weigh once a week.
Right.
So that we can get a more wide average to see how we're doing. And, and I continued to lose, a half a pound every other week on average. Yeah. I'd have some weeks where I'd lose a pound a week, but then I'd have 2 or 3 weeks with nothing.
Yeah.
And it just happened. And when you get to maintenance, it's super anticlimactic because, again, for me, I didn't even get to I got to do like one ad. That was it.
Right.
Because I'm short. And so when I added a little more, then my weight popped back up a little bit. So I pretty much live on the, on the weight loss plan essentially for my food. But you just have to shift your dopamine to other things, just like you had to shift it off of food. And I don't think about the program as a weight loss program. I mean, the best thing is to not think about that at all.
Right.
I think about it as I'm keeping my body healthy so I don't get diabetes and heart disease and I don't suffer later. And I'm doing this, and I have people in my family who have suffered from these diseases. And it's like, I want to feel good and do the things I love doing and be active and go hiking and spend time traveling and seeing my grandkids. And I want to do all those things feeling well. And that's why I do this now. That's why I live in maintenance. And now the scale is just a nice scientific guidepost to remind me if I'm getting a little bit off track, or if I decide to do an experiment, you know, to help me know if that experiment's working. It's so interesting because we've talked before about the body image thing, but because I still have the body image disorder or body dysmorphia disorder, I literally will have days where I'm like, I'm just so fat. You know, and then I get on the scale and I'm like, man, and I'm the same weight. You know, and it's like, it's actually really good for that healing of that mental, you know, problem of, you know, reminding yourself, no, this is where I'm at, you know, and it's okay.
Yeah. And I, you know, I'm not at goal weight yet, but I know that another thing that people have talked about in the program, and I've seen people talk about in the program, is maybe setting a goal and then not ever getting all the way down, because I think sometimes our bodies just want to live at a different weight than what we have in mind. And, you know, I think that's the other thing is, you know, to be completely transparent, like my goal range is 140 to 150. I have no idea, because I've never been below 200 pounds, whether that's possible. And I'm very, very close to being under 200 pounds, which I'm very excited about. But I'm just saying, like, I just don't even know, you know, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what me in my, you know, quote unquote, bright body looks like. And so I think that that's the other thing, is that if you've never lived in a body that was the right size, and you know, like me, and you don't have an ideal of what goal weight is, I think setting a goal is fine, but I think also not holding on to that too tightly.
I got to the goal weight that I set for myself. And then I found that if I added food, I gained weight. And if I took the food back away, I was really hungry. And so I basically decided that I was going to allow myself to go up a little bit. And I ended up going up 10 pounds from that number. And I've been stable at that number now for over a year.
And not hungry.
Wow.
And so my body kind of told me, you had that number in your head, that's what you wanted to be. But that's not where I need to be. And so that's just where I've landed. And so you have to listen to your body. And you do have to separate out just like craving for food versus hunger, right? But yeah.
And I think that the scale chatter is one of those things that I think can be, you know, it's a difficult thing to overcome. I think when we've been taught all our lives to look at the number, you know, to look at the number and that the judgment of the number, and like we talked about before, like patients coming in the clinic when Bonny was, you know, working, you know, doctoring, now that you're not doctoring now, I'm sorry. When you're seeing patients, I'm sorry. Just words are leaving me today. But just that there's just shame around whatever the number is. And that if we step back from it, like Bonny said, and use it as a scientific guidepost and can detach, you know, daily weighing obviously is okay. I'm okay with it because I see the number fluctuate and it doesn't bother me. It's like, oh, yep, this is the fluctuation. I look at the week over week averages and I can still see where I'm going in the direction I want to go, and that's fine. But I think on the reverse side of that is that if you cannot quiet that chatter, then weighing less often, there's nothing wrong with that. I think when you get to maintenance, I think that the recommendation is to do at least once a week, because you need to just to keep an eye on things, like especially if you're adding food. But I've also heard the coaches say, the moment you add food, you're going to gain weight. Does that mean the weight's going to stay on? No. But the moment you add food, above and beyond those you know, days and maybe even weeks afterwards, the weight's going to come back up a little bit. It may then settle back down, but it's points of information over time, and it's not static. It's very fluid. And I think that that's, you know, something, I think it's something, if you can step back from it emotionally and think about it a little more scientifically, it really helps to quiet that chatter.
And if you're not there because emotionally you need to do some more work in that area and it's just too traumatizing, then, you know, if you're at a weight that you're happy with and you feel healthy, then, you know, have a certain piece of clothing that isn't stretchy, right? That kind of fits you a certain way. And then if you put that on, and, you know, put that on every other week or however often you want, and it's like, oh, getting a little snug, then maybe you weigh yourself, you know, or whatever.
But I know people who have totally not done the body scale at all in this program, and they've just been like, once I'm at the size that I want to be and I feel good in my body, then I'm done. And then like not even stepping on the scale, like completely disconnecting from the scale because it's so traumatic for them. So, Any other thoughts on scale chatter? Yeah, I think, the one thing to take away, as Bonnie said, is that, it's this individual. It is very individual what you decide to do with weighing yourself or not weighing yourself, if that is what you choose as well. But trying to take the most objective view of the number on the scale, and that it is definitely not defining of anyone's worth at all. You are worthy no matter what the scale says. And I'll leave you at that.
Agreed.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll talk to you next time.